the now silent hotel room made it feel like I was just picking up where I'd left off at the church before. Standing in front of the door to the main bedroom, I balled my right hand into a fist and prepared to knock. But as I raised it to shoulder height, it hesitated against my will. "Don't hesitate," I screamed in my heart, and mustering all my might, I knocked on the door. And pouring out my feelings, praying that I could cross over space and time, I called out her name, Hagana. As that word passed through my throat, it felt as though it had been 8 years since I last uttered it. In truth, it really had been 8 years since I called it out as a name to stop someone in their tracks. For those 8 years, this name was merely an epithet for someone unreachable in my past. But now, in this very instant, I was calling out the name of Hagana, whom I'd seen even in my dreams. That was why, even if there was no answer, I would not falter anymore. "Hagana, I know you're in there." My voice was absorbed by the room's soundproof floor and walls. I clenched my fist and knocked on the door. "Hagana, I have to talk to you." Then, driven by momentum, I put my hand on the doorknob. It felt almost anticlimactic as it turned under my hand. The door was not locked. After thinking for a mere instant, I boldly opened the door. In that moment, it genuinely seemed as though I'd been sent back into the past. The inside of the main bedroom was dark. Hagana? The blackout curtains were completely closed. The bedroom was so dark, you wouldn't think it was still daytime. As I took a step inside, I had yet more vivid reminders of the church 8 years ago. It was the scent of the room. It was Hagana's fragrance, which hadn't changed since back then. "Hagana." I called out her name. But this time, I was not calling out in the darkness, not knowing whether anyone was there. I was calling out to her, with the full knowledge that she was here. Hagana was sitting at the side of the bed, a laptop open on her knees. She was staring at the screen with emotionless eyes, occasionally manipulating the touchscreen. Next to her was a bottle of expensive-looking wine in a glass. It had been 8 years since then. I was aware that I hadn't changed at all in 8 years, but this might not have been the case for Hagana. Hagana. I called out her name once more, but she didn't respond. Did she not hear me? Right after thinking that, what? There was no rejection or disgust, not even concern. I was about to recoil from the mechanical-sounding word, but I spoke in the very next instant. "I want to ask you something." Hagana was silent. She kept gazing at the screen of her laptop, nearly without blinking. Why was Barton so relentless about buying Emerald Industries? I don't know. After having answered, Hagana lightly pushed a key. "Then why did you help Barton?" There was a pause. "Hagana? I have no reason to tell you." Rejection. I took a deep breath, then I went on. "You have a reason." And then, for the first time, Hagana looked at me. In this dark room, with the curtains pulled, lit only by the dim light from the laptop screen, the darkness was all the more acute, and yet Hagana's eyes stood out even darker than the rest of the room. "What you are doing might cause the lunar surface to collapse." But Hagana showed no reaction to these words, and turned her gaze back towards the screen. I kept on, undeterred. Bull Stairs was about to go bankrupt, and we managed to overcome that crisis somehow, but right now Harold Brothers is staggering. And if, amidst all this, Emerald Industries reported huge losses and ended up being at risk of collapsing, then that would sign the death warrant to the lunar surface. Oh. Hagana spoke this word in a low voice, her gaze still fixed on her screen as she worked on something. I still clung on. Right now, we're acting to protect the lunar surface from outright collapse, but the situation has been developing too fast, and and there's only so much we can do on our own. So we don't have time to observe how Barton's chicken race plays itself out. If anything really did happen, then we would have no way to save the lunar surface. Hagana, you must know why Barton is so intent on going after Emerald Industries, right? Please, tell me. Hagana was still staring at her screen, without changing her expression in the slightest. She said this. What would you do if I told you? I'm going to save the lunar surface. I yelled without realizing. Even so, Hagana did not react at all. No matter how empathetic they may be, humans had something called a spinal reflex. When they heard a loud noise out of the blue, their body would react whether they wanted it to or not. But Hagana did not move. She looked like an actual life-size doll. Hagana. So, I heard you gave an orbital elevator ticket to Risa. You're thinking that the lunar surface might just actually collapse, aren't you? No, you. I continued speaking, struggling my hardest to keep myself from raising my voice. Aren't you actually trying to cause the lunar surface to collapse? Hagana was silent. She neither refuted nor acknowledged. She was just toying with the laptop on her knees. Hagana! I reached out to the laptop. Even when I took her laptop away, Hagana did not resist. As I looked at the screen, I shuddered. It wasn't like there was anything inappropriate on the screen, nor was it like that thing in horror movies where you think someone's writing a novel, but they're just writing "help me" over and over. Even so, I shuddered. What Hagana had been working on was solitaire, as in the card game. To think Hagana was killing time with a game in a situation like this, I had a terrifying feeling that something was wrong with her. Hagana. I called out her name, as if to stop someone from going away. Hagana, without her computer, was staring blankly into the void. She seemed out of it, as if she'd given up on everything. Hagana. I crouched and extended my hand toward her shoulder. Only then did Hagana react promptly, cruelly rejecting my hand. Don't touch me. Hagana, but don't come any closer. My hysterical voice, just like 8 years ago. Hagana was staring into the void, not straying from it at all. But that just looked even worse to me, and I felt compelled to call out to someone for help. You feigned offering advice to Emerald Industries and accumulated huge quantities of financial products that you knew would collapse. That much was in line with Barton's plan. But you ended up involving insanely huge amounts of money, am I right? Why did you do that? As you are right now, it's like she was trying to die with the lunar surface. I did not voice these words out loud, but I could tell Hagana knew what words I was holding back, because she was looking at me. It doesn't matter what I do, it's none of your business. She did not even call me by my name. It is so. I yelled, and because my emotions were getting the better of me, I was at a loss for words for a moment. But I could still say this. It's my business too. How so? There was no emotion at all in her eyes as she gazed at me. That was why her question struck me like a knife straight to the heart. How is it your business? Somehow, the words would not come out. The words I tried my hardest to muster turned out pathetic. Are you really asking me that? At this instant, for some reason, I felt like Hagana's presence had grown in the darkness. How is it your business? After Hagana asked me this once more, I finally spoke. I want to protect the lunar surface. I don't think so. Hagana then averted her gaze, as if saying that the discussion was over. But I grabbed her shoulders, and she tried to push away my arms. Do you really understand what you are doing? You're about to destroy the lunar surface. Thousands of people, hundreds of thousands of people's lives, and the dreams and hopes those people have been chasing after. It turned into a struggle. The glasses were pushed over and the laptop got thrown aside. The lunar surface has no hopes or dreams. Hagana finally spoke those words. Nothing. Such things don't exist. I've never seen such things. I've only seen people suffering. I've not seen a single good thing on the lunar surface. So it should just be gone. Hagana tried to free her wrist from my grasp. The usual difference in strength between a man and woman was flipped here, since one of us was raised on Earth and the other was born on the moon. I was about to be shaken off, but I tried my best to hang on. Even so, are you going to wipe out the lunar surface for this reason? Yes. Hagana said this softly. It should just disappear. The sight of her eyes gazing at me took my breath away. Hagana's eyes were not apathetic anymore. In those eyes, I could feel clear hatred directed at me. Am I the cause? Hagana gave no reply to those words. But her eyes were more than eloquent in that regard. I am really sorry about what happened then. I've always wished I could do it over again and do it right if that were even possible. Even though my emotions were boiling deep within my heart, I could not find the words to express them. What was this frustration? Finally, I mustered my words and spoke. I never stopped thinking about you for the last 8 years. Liar. Hagana replied with one word. One single word, so extremely short, so sharp. Do you think I'm going to believe that lie? It's not a lie. I said this on the verge of tears. It wasn't a lie. For the last 8 years, Hagana had been at the center of my thoughts. But the wound I felt from her disbelief overshadowed my desire for her to know the truth. Hagana was looking at me with eyes filled with hatred. So, it really wasn't possible to fix this mistake from 8 years ago. I did something worthy of your hatred. Obviously you'd end up hating me, but I always wanted to apologize. I wanted to apologize and do it all over. I've thought about that constantly for the last 8 years. That's why, in case you ever came back one day, I was always thinking about what to do to get you to forgive me, and always acted in order to better myself. I have been working my hardest for that goal. I was on the verge of tears, mustering all I could to say this, as my voice grew hoarse. Hagana was glaring at me with eyes filled with hatred. Out of the blue, with her eyes still full of hatred, a tear fell from the corner of her eye and rolled down her cheek. Why are you telling me this lie? It's not a lie. You've got to believe me. Liar. Liar! Hagana averted her gaze from me, and just like a child pulling a tantrum, she tried to shake off my arms. Every time she cast her face down, tears would fall from her eyes. I didn't understand a thing about the situation. I couldn't understand it all, so much that it was sad. Why didn't she believe me? Why did she decide on her own that my words were lies? And why was she crying? I was just about to catch up to her. I had once gone to the far end of the lunar surface to take back what I had lost. There was no way I would let her go, no matter what. Then why do you think I gave him that outrageous profit I made? Hagana was not about to stop resisting, and she wouldn't look me in the eye. Even so, I ignored that and kept on talking. How many risks, how many decisions do you think I had to take to make that much profit? This might have been completely straightforward for you guys, but for me it was hard. It was really hard. But I did it. I did it, because that was the path that led me to my dreams I had been chasing after. because I thought this was the only way you would ever forgive me. Hagana's efforts weakened. I said this as if to press her for answers. Then why, when I won that bet, more than the happiness of having realized my dream, my foolish dream of 8 years ago, this was what I thought. Now I only have one dream left. That was... As Hagana tried to hide her face with her arms, I mustered all my strength to force them open, just like 8 years ago. That was... to start over again with you. Hagana looked at me. Her face crumpled from having broken down crying. There was not a shred of the adulthood she had acquired in these 8 years. Her face was that of the young girl she was 8 years ago, who could not control her emotions, and who was at a loss for what to do in the face of a reality where nothing would go the right way. Hagana looked at me, the hatred now gone from her eyes. Yet, as her face contorted in pain, she said this to me while averting her eyes. Why are you lying like this? I was also on the verge of tears. Why won't you believe me? What do I have to do to get you to believe me? I'm not lying. It's all the truth. I was still holding Hagana's arms, and I shook them with all my strength. This was now the only way I had left. No words could express the emotions I had in me at this instant. I had no other way but to convey my anger with all my strength, just like an animal in a cage. Hagana progressively stopped resisting. She could only hang her head and let me have my way with her without any strength. Confronted with the sight, I suddenly felt like I was doing something truly horrible to her. Maybe it was not that she did not believe my words, but that she did not want to believe. You could cover your losses with profits, but it was not the same for human emotions. Wasn't I only arbitrarily forcing my feelings on Hagana? Wasn't I only gouging old wounds? Just as my confusion was fading, that train of thought started violently gnawing at me. But even so, faced with Hagana hanging her head down in front of me, there was one thought that crossed my mind. Now, I realized there were words that I had to tell her. I still love you. I didn't care about the lunar surface. I didn't care about Barton. This was the only truth for me. But these words would certainly not reach Hagana. The silence dragged on, and time passed. And even as I was fooling around, the market would get closer to collapse, and Harold Brothers would be under pressure. I could not stand still. This was the same for matters of love. Just like Chris did, just like Eleanor did, I had to settle things once and for all. There was Hagana's laptop that had been cast away. By investigating it, maybe I would figure out something. Even if it was locked, if I asked Suro or someone I could break in. My hands let go of Hagana's arms. It was at this instant. Liar. With her eyes cast down so I couldn't see her expression, Hagana uttered this word. Liar. She repeated that word. I did not even feel like persuading her. I merely felt sadness well up in my heart. Liar. But Hagana did not stop. Her eyes still cast down. She said it one more time. Liar. That word was blunt and clear. There was a will. There was a foundation to it. This was a word meant to be thrown at someone. I was staring at Hagana. There was only one way I could respond to that. I'm not lying. Hagana raised her face. Liar. I'm not lying. It's true. Why wouldn't you believe? Then, just when I'd said that much, then who is that woman? Time seemed to stop. What? Hagana was glaring at me. She was glaring at me with eyes once more filled with emotions. But it wasn't hatred or resentment. It was anger. Who is that woman? What are you talking? She wouldn't even let me get the last word out. I've seen the movie. When I was on Earth, I've seen that you had another lover. I've seen it, Hal. You were happy with someone else. I was completely dumbfounded. This was too much. I was about to pass out, and I was seeing flashes of light in front of my eyes. It wasn't because I didn't understand what Hagana was saying. No, it was because I did understand. There was a fine line between stupidity and genius. Hagana had always been like this. She was terrifyingly intelligent and could instantly grasp all the possible moves she could make in a game like Othello. And while normally she was distrustful like a stray cat, she was a girl who at the darndest of times would be full of openings and innocently believe things. I took in a deep breath, filling my lungs, compressing all of the anger, consternation, and confusion in my heart, and the pent-up resentment at how the world was screwed up before lighting it on fire and speeding it at her. Are you an idiot or what? I pulled Hagana's arms toward me, and peering deep in her eyes, I screamed at her. That whole thing was a lie! What is? What you saw, it was all a made-up story. All you saw was that ridiculous movie, Avalon's Defeat. That movie was all a made-up story. Liar. I'm not lying. Did you really believe that thing? Because of the anger I couldn't vent, I couldn't breathe either. Even so, I forced myself to open my mouth, and I screamed the following words as I was spitting out my life. It's all a made-up story. I had nothing to do with it. I haven't even watched it myself. But I can somehow imagine I bet they had me get together with Eleanor at the end, am I right? Faltering upon seeing how angry I was, Hagana nodded slightly. I looked at the ceiling, and even though I was about to lose all reason from anger, I gathered all I could to form a sentence. The facts were completely different. Eleanor got engaged the other day on Earth. There was nothing going on with me. There has never been a single thing. But then with Chris, did you just say Chris? Upon hearing that name, I shook Hagana's arms as if to vent my anger. I hurt Chris too. I hurt her a lot, but what should I have done? She stayed with me for 4 years during my rehab. She sincerely wanted to do investment work with me. She has a cute smile, she's kind, she's skilled, she's a hard worker, she's a girl that any man on the lunar surface would be a fool to not make his girlfriend. But I already had someone I loved. I had no choice but to turn her down. I was focused straight on Hagana's face, and breathing so heavily and my shoulders were heaving. I had no idea what I could say or even how I could say it. By the world's standards, Hagana was certainly a genius. And the plan she made up by teaming up with Barton functioned beyond perfection. If it all worked out, even people who had nothing to do with finance could sing their tales for decades, I was sure of it. For better or for worse, she must have carved her name in the history of humanity as the person who destroyed one city, the lunar surface, with her brain alone. But this was only as far as her specialized domain was concerned. People always have their strengths and weaknesses. And there was one thing I had just recently learned. Even a cruel and calculating veteran of short selling, a devil of a man whose very humanity was questionable, could be a complete fool when it came to matters other than investment. Hagana hadn't grown in the slightest. Maybe we were on a level in that regard since I hadn't grown at all myself. But Hagana had talent on another level than mine, and this was precisely why her wrong impression had caused this whole situation. I was dumbstruck by the whole thing. If this was what reality was made of, then now I understood the situation, and it was way too realistic. That movie is all a made-up story. I took a deep breath, turned myself towards Hagana, and she spoke slowly. I have never gone out with anyone, even at my age. See how stupid I am? But I have loved you for these past 8 years. Hagana, I loved you. I finished speaking. Finally, I could breathe normally. Hagana kept on looking at me, completely baffled. I simply, slowly let go of her wrists. I had been gripping so tightly, my hands had gone stiff and it was difficult to let go. Or maybe it was just instinctive fear. Maybe I had been bound by that horrible memory of 8 years ago and thought if I let go of Hagana, I would never be able to hold her again. After 8 long years, I had finally been able to tell Hagana all my feelings. But I could not go on living forever chasing the phantom of Hagana. If I was to stop investing in her, this was the crossroads. It is said that one is a full-fledged investor when they are capable of throwing away positions with losses. I was standing at the junction that would turn me from the child of 8 years ago into something else. My hands completely let go of Hagana's wrists. At this instant, Hagana's hands fell with a thumb onto her knees. I spoke. Please, don't say that there wasn't a single good thing. I regret what happened 8 years ago, but the few days I spent with you were really enjoyable. At times, they were my only support. They were fun memories that people would get embarrassed, dumbfounded, or make them laugh. Wasn't it the same for you? Hagana shrugged slightly. Tears again rolled from her eyes. The lunar surface is a foolish place as usual. There are lots of annoying things, and even more unfair things. But even so, I wouldn't want for it to disappear. After what happened 8 years ago, and at the end of that path, I am standing here. I've learned that one can never be free from their past, and I do believe I've been able to move forward because I haven't cut ties to my past. So even after losing everything, you shouldn't try to act as though it never happened either. I stopped speaking and extended my right hand. Back then, it was the hand that had rejected Hagana's own. The right hand that was responsible for everything. I really want to start over. I came this far thinking that it would be possible, Hagana. I looked straight into Hagana's eyes as I spoke. I still love you, even now. Hagana closed her eyes, which caused all of the pent-up tears to fall at once. And when she once more opened her eyes, I could hazard a guess at Hagana's feelings. If it's a dream, then it might end. That was probably what she thought. Hagana. I called out her name and extended my right hand closer to her. Hagana cried like a child and... Al. Trying to take my hand, she spoke. What should I do? At that moment, I squeezed Hagana's hand. It's okay. I came here to find a way to set things right. I pulled Hagana towards me and hugged her with all my strength. It felt like Hagana's body was smaller than it was 8 years ago, but this was probably because I'd grown bigger. I'm sorry for the horrible thing I did back then. I'd like you to forgive me. Hagana didn't say a single word. But she wasn't one to speak a lot in the first place. Besides, it took me 8 years to come here. So the long, long silence that followed felt like the briefest of moments. Hell, what is it? I wanted to see you. I felt like I could finally put an end to my 8 years of suffering. Maybe it was thanks to the low gravity, but her laptop, the glasses, and the wine bottle were safe. While picking up the bottle and the glasses, I asked Hagana, who was sitting on the bed. So, you drink wine? Risa also used to. I'm not scolding you, but I won't drink anymore. As I finished wiping up the spilled booze and tried to stand, Hagana looked down at me. I'm not lonely anymore after all. Hagana's eyes looked like she was sulking a bit. It hit me again how horrible I'd been to Hagana. But at the same time, my heart was about to burst, full of affection for her. Hagana and I weren't children anymore. Yet when I came to my senses, I was clumsily hugging Hagana. Just like when she'd run away from the house, I couldn't think of anything else to do. Hagana. As 8 years of pent-up emotion were threatening to overflow, it happened. I forgot I was still holding the uncapped bottle in my hand, and Hagana scolded me in a cold voice. And I'd like you to tell me about Barton. I opened the curtains, the light stinging my eyes, and through the window I could see the area where the tallest skyscrapers in the city were lined up. This scenery made it clear enough where exactly I was in the world. What do you know, Hal? Hagana responded with a question, sniffing her suit where wine had spilled on it. I don't know anything. I said that, turning back to face her. I was completely caught off guard. Don't you remember the face I made when I came here? In my words, Hagana slightly averted her eyes. After a bit of thinking, she spoke. You looked like you had just died. I don't want to hear that from you. Hagana glared at me for a moment, and then her gaze seemed to lose focus, as if she'd seen something in the distance. 2 years ago, he came to me, and that's what he said, that he was headhunting. He was a bit different from those people. Huh. He was overly familiar. I couldn't help but smile crookedly. I could easily imagine that. But when he came to see me, he was clearly different from all those other people who'd have me do worthless things. His attitude. Hagana shook her head. He had a dream. Hagana's jet black eyes looked at me. Even with her personality how it was, it seemed her weakness for dreams hadn't changed, even now. He would go on and on about his dreams. Not in the same way you do, though. So he was confident about it, huh? Yes. I'd meant it as a self-deprecating joke, and I was a little wounded that she agreed. But thinking back, I realized how much courage it took me to talk about my dreams back then. If I had to pinpoint the moment I fell in love with Hagana, it was probably when she stayed by me without mocking my dream. I thought his plan was utterly preposterous, but I realized it was only the first requisite that made me think that way. The collapse of ABS. Yes, if it did actually happen, then I thought everything would go almost accordingly to plan. Also, there was a decisive flaw in the product Chris created. I still don't understand how a man who's no good at math could tell. A flaw. It's a difference in how you see the world. You could say that Gauss fooled Newton into bankruptcy. Most random physical phenomena are distributed according to the normal distribution. The normal distribution is also called the Gaussian distribution after its discoverer. The Gaussian distribution is commonly used in the mathematical models in the world of stocks. However, we learn through experience that not everything follows the normal distribution. Hagana mentioned this quote because Newton lost big time on stock transactions. I didn't understand what she said, but it seemed Hagana also had some grounds for envisioning the collapse of ABS. And Barton had seen through this with his first-rate flair and observation. There was one thing I wasn't sure of, what people would opt to prioritize. I can understand that, like the old story about a fire in a movie theater. As I explained it to Hagana, she nodded and resumed her own explanation. But looking at past precedents, we figured out that even if people are not rational, they will prioritize profits other than their own. Recently, I felt that from quite close up. Even when knowing they would bring profits one would call unjust E.J. Roachberg, Bull Stairs resolved to sell their company, and those people would probably be sung as the saviors of the lunar surface for a long time. So what was Barton's dream? As I asked her, Hagana looked embarrassed. Hagana put her hands between her knees. She seemed to be having a hard time speaking. So, you still have something embarrassing to say after all of this? Even after all the fussing, yelling, stupid misunderstandings and assumptions, and apologies done 8 years too late, there was still something she was embarrassed about. I couldn't even imagine what it was. And then Hagana spoke. To protect the lunar surface. I was taken aback. Hagana was looking at me embarrassed. Maybe it was to conceal her embarrassment, but even though it was rare for her, Hagana continued her explanation. Emerald Industries is too big. It is in charge of way too much of the infrastructure of the lunar surface. If something bad was to ever happen to it, there was nothing on the lunar surface that could replace it. That was when that man said that he could still live because he had the lunar surface as his playground, and that to protect the lunar surface he could not leave Emerald Industries in its current state. It sounded rather cheesy, but Barton was totally capable of spouting lines like that. He was a man who had several names and family registers, and he could freely manipulate huge amounts of money. If it were possible for him to have an insatiable desire even now, what could it be besides success for the sake of success? There was no difference between his type and obsessive gamblers, people who could only feel joy in the process of obtaining something rather than what they obtained. But that was exactly why I felt I could somehow understand part of the plight of his kind. The world of finance, starting with the stock market, allowed one to earn so much money that one ended up thinking they could realize any dream. But that was all there was to it. In the end, with the sum I paid for Hagana, I understood that it could only allow you to earn money. It seemed like the market held the answer to destiny, but it would never, ever give it to you. Even knowing this, though, one would want a place that you could believe held a shred of a dream. Barton's words were probably the bare truth, with no lies. So when Barton bought out Emerald Industries, he planned on splitting it up. That's what he said, that once it was split into several divisions, he was planning on raising rival companies. It sounds completely preposterous, yet it makes sense. It was obvious. Looking at the fuss caused by the medical report, there were lifeboats but not enough for everybody to get on board. And if there was demand, then it stands to reason that there must be supply. So if we talk to Barton about the lunar surface being on the brink of collapse, there is a chance he might help us, right? I muttered, thinking about how to bring this to him. 8 years ago I went to talk to Barton about the childish deal I had come up with in my innocent mind. And recently, Risa talked to me about a similar deal and I refused her. He probably wouldn't agree if it was an extension of that thinking. I had to adjust this deal so that Barton would feel that he had something to gain by listening to our story. There's one thing, though. What? Hagana scrunched her face, seemingly knowing what I was going to tell her. You were thinking that it would be okay if your plan failed, right? Hagana plotted to make the lunar surface collapse, but failing in this endeavor would conversely mean success for Barton's plan to let the lunar surface survive. Hagana scowled and turned the other way. It must have been hard. Hard to hold in. So hard it could have been torn her in half, holding these contradictory emotions in her heart. Yet Hagana took part in Barton's project. Hagana was by no means a cold-hearted person. She probably felt emotions so strongly she couldn't handle them properly. I'm really sorry. For what? 4 years ago, when I was at my most known, I should have called out to you. Eleanor seemed to be convinced I would do just that. But then, the end of the movie about Avalon's defeat would have been really different. Hagana glared at me. Why didn't you? I could only scratch my head in embarrassment. I was too busy. Hagana looked at me with scorn, then she heaved a small sigh. You haven't changed at all in 8 years. I think I'm different now. If I was the same as I was back then, I probably wouldn't be able to talk to you now. What do you mean? Because I think I would have been more focused on pressing you for the details of the plan than telling you how I feel. Are you stupid? If I were stupid, I would have been able to calm down and talk to you. Still, my priority had been the lunar surface for the first half of this whole mess. That must have been the source of my frustration. Hagana looked at me before averting her gaze. I think you're an idiot. Her face and profile was so cute I couldn't help but laugh. Seems like a lie that the lunar surface is in trouble. It's not a lie. Hagana answered, but bright as she was, she seemed to remember at once what she'd done. She looked at me with uneasy eyes. I know. That's why you're going to tell me that last bit that you're having so much trouble saying. I took a deep breath before saying this. I want you to tell me all the details of the positions you've been hogging. For a moment, it looked like Hagana might cry, but she took a deep breath and gave me the key to Pandora's box. After listening to what Hagana had to say, I realized how far we had come. The uproar surrounding the destiny of the people living in the outer district 8 years ago involved less than 1 million moles. The number that came out of Hagana's mouth went far beyond thousands of times that. How much was it? Gazanika was seated at the desk in his office. He couldn't even swallow, he was so tense. We are predicting losses totaling 8 trillion moles, and this is only what we can calculate at this point with what we have. So does this mean that the losses have a chance of getting even bigger? With only ABS and CDO and the protection, in theory, there is an upper limit to the losses. If everything collapsed, the securities would turn to paper scraps, and you'd end up having to make insurance payments with as much as the securities to put an end to it. The way you say it makes me want to go, oh, is that all? But even God himself would be scared of that kind of money. Wallace, who had come along with Sasha, said those words in an even tone. At this point, he probably reached a stage where he felt genuine admiration. Marco had his mouth agape, dumbfounded, and Gazanika was massaging the inner corners of his eyes. So, how did these ruthless monsters of the economy create losses going beyond even that? Shouldn't we be applying for the Guinness Book at this point? Their plan had yet another stage, another trap. I spoke, trying not to remember the shock I felt when I heard Hagana talk about it at the hotel. If someone other than Hagana had said it, I think my spirits would have been broken. My spirit did not break because Hagana herself was on the verge of having hers break, as she told me. They were doing large-scale option transactions involving currency. Currency? Options? Gazanika asked back, scrunching his face, and even Sasha and Margaret didn't seem to fully measure the true meaning of this word. Only Wallace looked at me when I said this, utter disbelief on his face. An option is used to bet on whether or not the price will go above a certain value at a certain point in the future. For instance, you predict how much the value of the mule would rise against the dollar 3 months from now, and you would either turn up a profit or a loss. I could sort of hazard a guess, so what of it? Until that medical report came out, the lunar surface's economy was going swimmingly. In other words, this was a situation in which the currency of the lunar surface was getting stronger and stronger, compared to the currencies of any country on Earth. Yeah, I understand that. Thanks to that, the price of imported products would drop, and it would become easier for people to live, though in turn this meant that the real estate price rose without limits. This means that, back then, you had an incentive to bet on the fact that the mule would get stronger. But conversely, this also means that if you could predict a collapse in the future, then you could easily take advantage of this flaw. Sorry, my brain is not working. What does that mean? I took a deep breath before speaking. In a situation where the mule's value will keep on rising in the future, an option that would grant profit when the mule drops has no value. Well, yes, I suppose, but there are some people who think that the mule will lose value. You can sell these options to such people. The point is, they have been selling insurance in preparation for the moment the mule dropped. Again with the insurance. Yes. In a situation where the mule keeps on rising, since it is just like no refund insurance, Emerald Industries kept on making big profits the more they sold this insurance. But conversely, the problem is the instant you trip the trigger that would activate the effect of these options, the mule drops. This causes a huge explosion, Mr. President. That's to be expected since they've been selling insurance, right? I mean, how... Gazanika was trying to stave off his headache as he attempted to follow the conversation. As though he was treading through the dark with poor visibility, I addressed him coldly. Mr. President, what was our last resort option for when everything really would go to hell? That was to activate the Yes. If we activated the rotary press to print tons of mule banknotes, the value of the mule would have to drop. But then, if we print mule banknotes to save Emerald Industries and such, then this means that the very companies we are trying to save will suffer even bigger losses. Is that it? What the hell? How is this even possible? And now we will talk about the moment that is the worst killjoy for me, that is, how to avoid this. Wallace said in a soft tone. Indeed, the worst killjoy during short selling is the moment that the government intervenes. Of course, if Emerald Industries gets caught in a crisis, then it is foreseeable that the government will step in. But we want to avoid this somehow. This trap made of huge option transactions probably serves one of two purposes in this whole scheme. Either to prevent the government from printing banknotes, or in practice to nullify any such interventions. Though it is highly probable that the other party in this option transaction is someone who is taking part in the Emerald Industries buyout project. I also share the same view on that. After all, the option trap is working too well, and causing an overkill because of the huge losses would be a problem for them too. They probably plan on canceling the transaction if things go too far, or to keep the losses to a manageable level. Truly an impressive display of ability. Was it really a man who planned that? Thoroughness on par with the devil. But then, what do we do? What other option do we have? I don't know yet what we can do, but I know what we have to do. I moistened my lips before talking. We just have to stop this whole uproar while avoiding Herald Brothers and Emerald Industries falling into bank run, and while avoiding depreciation of the moon. Gazanika laughed and put a hand to his face, his shoulders shaking as though he couldn't take anymore. This is just like the Gordian knot, isn't it? Wallace could be heard uttering this short sentence. Are you going to look for the legendary sword that can cut it in two? There's no legendary sword used to cut the Gordian knot. At Marco's words, Gazanika barked. Where are you going to find such a thing? It seemed like Gazanika had reached his limit. Hal, 10 minutes after you left we got a call from Mirror Wrench. They said that since they were aware how rotten to the core they were, they even renounced trying to find financing and were rushing to find someone to sell themselves to. Must have thought they'd end up bought at a steal like Bull Stairs. They tried to hold out too hard, so they wanted us to put in a good word for them. And now somehow my government's become reliable. I'm so proud. Do you even have candidates to buy? It would seem that every investor in the field is in a state of panic and hiding their cash in their drawers, right? So the only place who would have money are the commercial banks who stand guard on savings of their virtuous customers, right? In terms of scale, this means the Bank of the Moon would be a good match, but I have no clue as to how they could sell themselves, how much they could sell themselves for. A sound choice. At this comment from me, Gazanika heaved a huge sigh and spoke in a broken voice, about to cry. The situation must have reached a point where nothing more can be done. Everything we do is in haste. I want to turn on the rotary press and make it run. This will put an end to this whole thing. It will literally put everything on a course toward the end. Sasha, since we don't legally need to go through Parliament, we can do it whenever we want, right? Yes, the head director has disappeared, and only 3 of the remaining 4 directors are present. So by using your recommendation quota as president to force someone into the position, you could clear the legal requirement of having approval of more than half of the attending directors. Right on. We just need to plug it in the wall and make it work right away. That's plug and play for you. If you ask me, it'd be more like plug and pray. Nice. But that's the only way out left, Gazanika cried. The situation was desperate. Do this, and that will collapse. Do this other thing, and that other thing will break. There was a stray bull lost in a china shop. No matter what you did and how you did it, you could not avoid problems. But this is really the last resort. If we go and use it, nothing will be the same anymore. Don't you think that everything comes with a price? If the end result, the collapse of the lunar surface, doesn't change, we also have the option of praying without plugging it in. Oh, you would leave things to the whims of the market. How befitting of the liberalism of the lunar surface. This is what you call being consistent through and through. Wallace seemed ironic as he chuckled, but of course I was also saying this as a joke. That would just be inept dogmatism. It's been made clear by now that these guys won't be able to fix this mess on their own. Not doing anything is not an option, which is why we have no other option but to think. I schooled myself into speaking in a collected tone. Think until the very last moment. You said something like that in a movie, right? I glared at Wallace, who was laughing and frowned in obvious disgust. Would Wallace believe me if I told him that the current situation was for the most part caused by this same movie? But I do think that the most important thing in investment is knowing when to pull away. Indeed, I think we need to define a line beyond which we will give up. Even if printing banknotes means facing new problems, we would be able to avoid the present crisis. This is very important since at the very least it will help us buy time for people to flee the lunar surface. Yeah, there's that problem too. I had someone run calculations for me. Even with the orbital elevator at full activity, it would take around 1 month to send everyone on the lunar surface back to Earth. Plus, this does not account for the capacity of the gravity training facility. We don't have tabs on everyone who was both born on the moon and has never been in a high-gravity environment, but it certainly can accept all of them at once. If anything, we must prevent Emerald Industries from collapsing out of the blue, and from failing in some way. They're in charge of both the circulation of the atmosphere and the temperature in the dome. This would cause the biggest space accident in history. Approaching things from this point of view, I pondered the idea that this place, the lunar surface, went on existing because everyone assumed things would turn out fine. So where do we draw the line before surrendering? At Gasanika's question, naturally all gazes turned themselves towards Wallace. In standard stock trade, the highest loss one can suffer happens at the moment when the stocks they bought turn to scrap paper. But in short selling, since it's the rise in stock price that becomes a loss, theoretically losses can be infinite. Consequently, with short selling, even more so than for regular trading, being able to determine the moment to back out becomes important. Dr. Wallace, master of short selling and king of pessimism, looked displeased as he spoke. What are you people thinking, pushing such heavy responsibilities on a dying old man? Even if it failed, no one would be able to blame a dead man, would they? So it's true, all lawyers are scoundrels. I swear, I regret not staying quietly in my sickbed. For once I should have listened to Maria. After uttering those words as if spitting them, Wallace knocked his cane on the ground. Once Herald Brothers' stock price falls under 10 moles, we'd better consider it the start of the countdown to hell. I did a rough calculation of the value of their assets, but even deducting their hidden losses, if it falls under 10 moles, then it will become too cheap for it to be reasonable. Reaching that price range means that the market does not trust Herald Brothers' accounting books or their future. After that, all they'll be able to do is wait for death. What about Emerald Industries? As Gasanika asked, groaning, Wallace gave him a short glance and looked at me. Obviously, this is under the assumption that nothing happens on that side. I can't imagine what could happen in the meantime, but we have to find a way to stop this uproar. If Emerald Industries wavers, then we won't have a moment to lose by hesitating. We'll have to plug in the rotary press and pray. Several hundreds of thousands of people, including us, would be abandoned in space. Couldn't the government take over their operations? Well, looking at the facts, that wouldn't mean nationalization. We would need to go through Parliament. Besides, can we even do that in the first place? Nationalization? I don't think that word can be found in any dictionary sold on the lunar surface. Indeed. Even I have no idea how bad the chaos that would ensue would be. In that case, our best option would be succeed in persuading a certain man who plots like a devil. Yeah, that's right. Hal, would you be up to the task? Though Gasanika phrased this in the form of a question, it obviously wasn't one. I uttered the following words. He and I are at 1 win and 1 loss. My mouth convulsed into what looked like a smile, and it probably wasn't due to fatigue. Is there anything we can do? Please pray. I had to do what I could do. I had no other choice. I left the General Government Building and headed for the Royal Central Hotel. Hagana was waiting for me outside room 5002. Did you lock yourself out? The door had an auto lock, so I didn't have to think long before I spoke. Yes. After a long silence, Hagana answered briefly. Chuckling, I used my card key to open the door. As I did, though, I noticed a card key sticking out of Hagana's pocket. She probably couldn't wait anymore and was waiting outside. I was feeling absolutely gleeful at how adorable Hagana was being, but that giddiness disappeared all at once. wasn't much for asking questions 8 years ago, yet she asked me this. More than likely she was worried about the situation that she was looking forward to seeing. She was more worried about the situation that she was looking forward to see me. She was clearly regretting what she had done. In the world of investment, it happens sometimes that your plans backfired and you ended up in a horrible predicament. However, in Hagana's case, she kept piling risks on top of rival industries with full knowledge of what she was doing. Trying to corner her and persuade her that Barton had tempted her into it didn't have much effect. I wish from the bottom of my heart I could resolve this crisis, if only because I was sure I could help remove even a little bit of that regret from Hagana's heart. I wanted to do it, so one day we could smile at each other. The situation was actually worse. Mirror wrench? Hagana asked in a small voice. I glanced back at her surprised. Seems the program I gave you works just fine. Hagana was poking a few keys on her laptop as she said this, what she'd been playing solitaire on. If this is accurate, Herald Brothers will be the next to catch fire. Hagana said this as she read the screen, in a tone that made it sound like she was reading surface information for the orbital elevator. The program Hagana created could, based on the prices of ABS, CDO, and the protection, put in numbers how much a financial institution was actually taking risks. And from there, it could simulate how much of the real estate market had to rot before the institution itself would rot. She was expressing this credit uncertainty that could lead to a bank run, using the same kind of algorithm used to simulate the propagation of an epidemic or a wildfire. A way of thinking like the power law, which has a different basis from the normal distribution Gaussian distribution. In simple terms, the human height tends to aggregate towards the mean, and there will always be a limit to how tall one may be. However, the incomes of wealthy people don't aggregate toward the mean. There are no theories on the limits of how much they could earn. The income of wealthy people is an example that follows the power law. So I guess they're trying to say that the wealth is like the epidemic or the wildfire, even though the whole epidemic thing is a lot more complicated than that, because people will behave irrationally. Some will actually try to contain the epidemic, some will actively try to spread it, some will self-quarantine. There's a lot that goes into this, and for the gaming oriented in this, you may want to Google the Tainted Blood or is it the Tainted Blood? There was a glitch on World of Warcraft where some sort of taint was put on players, and it could spread from player to player. So what ended up happening is you actually had people realistically behave like they would in an epidemic. Some people realized things were dangerous, so they quarantined themselves so they wouldn't spread it. You had healers going around trying to contain it, and you also had people who were going around trolling by actively spreading it. And believe it or not, that type of behavior actually does mirror human activity very much. And like one of the best examples I can give you is just how people try to actively spread STDs. There are actually people who will go around trying to spread things like HIV because they have it, as if inflicting it on someone else will make their situation somewhat better or something, because obviously they're not all there in the head if they're doing that in the first place, so yeah. So that's why I think this whole epidemic thing is a lot watered down, but I'm not exactly sure how these are supposed to relate. Maybe the wildfire part was more accurate. I'm not actually familiar with that one, I just know the epidemic thing because of my background. I kept staring at the display of the grid network of the finance world and the simulation display of bank runs caused by this credit uncertainty, but all it looked like to me was a map of the future created by the devil to signal the apocalypse. Hagana used it when piling up risks on Emerald Industries, and she had given the same thing to Wallace for reference. I couldn't figure out how for the life of me it was possible to create such a thing, but Hagana had explained to me that if you had to forecast 2 years in advance what would happen, it wasn't that difficult. Especially the data, since official data had at the very best the total amount of money issued in ABS and CDO securities. Yet Hagana and Barton were referencing information that should be impossible to find no matter where you searched. But it seemed Barton had, for the single purpose, created a company that would gather information. It would do so by using direct manpower to call financial institutions worldwide on the phone, obtain their financial positions, their pricings, and then aggregate all of that information. Almost all the service companies in the world that provide market information were doing that sort of low-level work already. Said financial institutions probably didn't sense that anything was off. That sort of obstinacy had nearly made me lose my footing. But this was me talking. The guy who once actually obeyed his paranoia went to the far side of the lunar surface to look for non-existent power plants. Barton had me beat in scale and experience, but there was nothing I could do about that. But it wasn't so big a gap that the outcome was already decided. The direction I was looking in wouldn't change. I shifted my gaze from Hagana to the screen before speaking. In theory, how long should Harold Brothers hold out? Given the current situation, 1 month, but this estimate is only the case where the fall of the real estate market is at a set value. If the market conditions worsen, the credit uncertainty will show nonlinear movements. So you're saying if the fall accelerates radically, the collapse will occur sooner. Like that program showing the grid collapse? Yes. But predicting when a sudden change will occur is extremely hard, and once the collapse begins, it will all be over in an instant. It's like applying force to a twig. For a while it can take on that force and bend, but past a certain point, it will break. Hagana gave me a small nod, and her eyes still were on the screen. I also don't know how reliable this program will be. In the end, it's just a simulation. This was probably not caution so much as Hagana hoping that was the case. It was right on the mark for Mirror Wrench. This information hasn't gone out to the market yet. By the way, how did it go for Bull Stairs? Hagana spoke as if confessing a sin. It was right on the mark. She looked like she had just died, and was probably playing solitaire to kill time because she was convinced of what would happen in the future. In other words, she was forecasting that if things kept on going the way they did, Emerald Industries would collapse, and the lunar surface would go under. But humans don't behave like equations. Hagana sounded like she was trying to convince herself more than anything. Yes, after all, this program can't account for the existence of a person like me. I can't really deny that those were just pretty words to ease our minds, but we had no choice but to believe that. Even Isaac Newton, who could calculate the movement of stars, but could not predict the madness of men, ended up facing tremendous losses in stock trading. As much as they're referencing this, I'm kind of getting curious to look it up, because I really know nothing about Isaac Newton other than all the calculus stuff. And I guess you would consider the Apple thing to be part of calculus because of gravity, so, you know, group that one in with that too. But what will we do? We'll have to think. Think of a way for everyone to avoid bankruptcy, to avoid the depreciation of the mool, and to calm down the crisis. And we'll have to persuade Barton. Legally speaking, stopping the payment of non-actualized protection from Emerald Industries didn't require us convincing Barton of anything. But Emerald Industries was carrying more losses than Barton had anticipated. If we'd let Barton proceed as he was, it was extremely likely that a situation he did not foresee would occur. The tens of billions in mools that had likely been transferred to one of Barton's accounts would have been useful in preventing this. Or rather, without that money, we would be forced into their last resort, printing banknotes. Is it possible? We have no choice. I couldn't prevent a bitter laugh from escaping my mouth as I answered. But at this point, we have absolutely nothing to persuade him. Even if Barton's objective was something that would prevent the collapse of the lunar surface, I don't see him as the type that would readily agree if we told him, "Hey, the lunar surface might outright collapse, so please stop." That man was just like an animal. An animal. Indeed. My laugh sounded quite dry. Persuading him will probably be impossible. The one and only thing Barton would accept is a business deal. A deal. Don't you dare say anything about selling yourself again. At my words, Hagana jerked and cowered. But this was Hagana with 8 more years of experience. She didn't hold her tongue. If I could be sold for 30 billion mools, I'd say that's worth considering. Her jet black eyes shone with a hint of meanness as she looked at me. I'd paid more than that just for a chance to reach my hand out toward Hagana. And if my hand happened to touch her cheek, that was because deep down, I wanted what every other investor wanted, a return on investment. But you didn't open your heart for that sum, did you? I did consider it. What, really? I was surprised. I was so sure I was being completely ignored. That's not true. Hagana looked at me with a slightly petulant look in her eyes. But I could not believe it. You did in the end, though. That alone makes me feel blessed. Really? Even though she believed things rather hastily, Hagana was still distrustful. But as far as I was concerned, that's the cutest thing about Hagana. Really. I gazed back into Hagana's eyes. Just like cats do in these circumstances, Hagana narrowed her eyes and averted her gaze. Nearly unconsciously, I was drawing Hagana's face closer to mine with the hand I had on her cheek. Hagana noticed it and stiffened. But she didn't resist, of course, and I recalled my memories of 8 years ago when we were together in bed in the dead of the night. They say that when people are confronted with a critical situation, sexual desire increases because we're instinctively geared to want to procreate. Though if I was feeling any instinct right now, it was to flee from the tension I was currently faced with. I was so close, I could actually count Hagana's eyelashes. That close up, even with my eyes closed, I couldn't get it wrong. It was at that instant. The chime rang. It was either Marco, whom I told to come here after going to the office, or maybe Risa. In any case, Hagana and I were both caught off guard, and we looked towards the door at the same time. I was annoyed by the rude visitor, but I noticed I was also somewhat relieved. As I stood up, reflecting on my cowardice, something soft touched my cheek. I looked at Hagana. She was facing away, her expression blank. We had taken so long in addressing the chime that it rang once more.